There were signs of multiple blows from a heavy object.
This is a sustained, violent assault.
Such a quiet, beautiful village. The fact that there was a murderer on the loose was really scary for people.
4,500 occupants of local homes in the area were questioned. She was well known, well liked, well loved. Very difficult to imagine anyone would target her.
As far as picture-perfect villages go, Bosham in West Sussex is up there with the best of them.
Bosham is a really picturesque, beautiful village. A lot of people from London have their second houses down here, so there's a lot of money down here as well.
It's predominantly a sailing village. A lot of sailing goes on in Bosham. People come from quite a way locally to go sailing in Bosham.
As a quaint coastal town, Bosham attracts its fair share of visitors.
A lot busier in the summer. Loads and loads of people come around to visit the area. But in this area, in the heart of the village, if you like, it's a pretty close-knit community, and people look out for each other, and it's just quite a typical sort of English village, I'd say.
The demographic is mainly of an elderly nature. There is the Chichester Harbour, which is an area of outstanding natural beauty, where a lot of the locals would go to sail, take lovely strolls and walks along the harbour. Especially in the summer months, it's more attractive for the tourists because of the lovely weather we get here in the south coast.
Crime is so low in Bosham, there are often months with nothing reported.
I remember being told by the police there hadn't been a crime recorded in Bosham for 6 months. So not a robbery, nothing, not a car broken into.
But in a village where everyone knows everyone, when the unthinkable happens, it tears a community apart.
Police are investigating after the body of a woman was found dead in a multi-million-pound property in a Hampshire village. The death is currently being treated as suspicious.
The news broke overnight that a woman was found in a home in Bosham.
The first that I knew that something had happened, there were multiple police cars and ambulances, which in Bosham it's unusual even to see one police car from week to week around the village, so that we obviously knew that something had happened, something had gone on.
At 10 a.m, 5 days after Christmas, Sussex police receive a 999 call to a large rural property in the village.
Police emergency, how can I help you?
The distraught caller reveals there's a woman dead in bed.
Obviously the paramedics and police were called and they responded. They found a female in bed with clearly significant head injuries where she'd been struck numerous times with a blunt instrument.
The details from the police came in that the lady who had been found had been bludgeoned to death with an object. Her face was smashed in.
And it was clear at that point that this was a murder investigation.
It is quickly established the deceased woman is not the owner of the sumptuous property, as they are away for Christmas. So who is the woman? And who would want her dead?
There was a little bit of panic in the village because this sort of thing doesn't happen in Bosham.
It's such a quiet, beautiful village that the fact that there was a murderer on the loose was really scary for people.
Suddenly there was all this activity going on, lots and lots of police cars and everything. And of course, within no time, everybody knew there had been a murder. And there was a lot of gossiping and guesswork and so on.
As a journalist for the local newspaper at the time, Kelly Wickham was more used to reporting on village fates, but now found herself at the centre of a murder investigation.
Rumours started emerging about who could possibly have committed such a crime in this area. There were many speculations that came about, such as, why was the victim there? She didn't own the property. Where was the property owner?
A woman murdered while house-sitting a property in a seaside village has been named as Valerie Graves. Sussex police said that a post-mortem examination had not yet been carried out, but the woman is believed to have died of head injuries.
She just turned 55 on Christmas Day 2013, 4 days before her death. She originally was from London, had moved to Scotland to set up her home and a business up there, but returned down south to look after her elderly mother Eileen and spend more time with her family. She had 2 children, 2 grandchildren.
She had lived in Scotland for about 10 years and she was a local artist up there.
Police soon established that Valerie was looking after the house over the festive period with her mum, her sister and her sister's partner.
Things I would be considering en route to that particular crime scene would be who did find Valerie and under what circumstances? Who was the last person to see Valerie alive? Was there any sign of any struggle, any sign of any forced entry? If there's no sign of forced entry, then you may start thinking, well, was the premises insecure or is this something that's occurred inside the family home? So was there a dispute that had taken place? So until you've kind of spoken to the family, you can't rule them out, but you can't rule them in as well.
With the identity of their victim now known, police need to establish who would want her dead. Investigators immediately look at the hours leading up to the discovery of her body.
The night of the 29th of December was rather like any other. Normal watching television. In fact, it was 10 p.m. that Mrs. Graves took her iPad and a book to bed. She was the first to go to bed. She was staying on the ground floor at the back of the house.
We understand in the morning her sister woke up with her partner. Her partner decided to go down to the farm shop to get some breakfast goods. Noticed that the bedroom door was slightly ajar, didn't think anything of it. He went out to the shops. Her sister then went in to check on Valerie and sadly found her clearly deceased in bed.
There were many rumours circulating about why did nobody hear her scream? Was this an inside job? Was there somebody in the house perhaps that knew what had happened? It was a really strange time because a lot of fingers were being pointed in a lot of directions.
Certainly at the beginning, you have to keep a very open mind in relation to what may have happened. And unfortunately, that involves including, were family members involved in this? And so you have to sort of hold them at arm's length to a certain extent, ask them a number of questions in relation to their movements.
Intense questioning of Valerie's family begins.
I do remember conversations about the fact that the family hadn't heard anything upstairs and she was downstairs, and a lot of people were like, well, how did they not hear anything? Was it something to do with the family? Was there more to it than that? It was, obviously people were speculating.
Initial reports into her death reveal a brutal attack.
The injuries to Mrs. Graves were akin to a high-speed head-on collision.
So how could no one in the house have heard anything?
You have that gut feeling, you sense when you're speaking to people, looking at them in the eye, as to whether or not you think they are involved. And obviously, it'll be a very traumatic scene for the family there, and very unlikely that you're going to get crocodile tears under those circumstances. And again, you want to know what sort of relationship the family have with Valerie and why would they want to do that. So I think, whilst you can't rule them out straight away, you get a quick sense of whether or not they're involved.
Speculation and theories about the motive escalate. But as the family is ruled out, suspicion falls on the local villagers.
There was always a slight fear in the back of your mind that it could be someone that you knew in the village and that they might still be on the loose.
The feeling everywhere seemed to be that of panic, worry, apprehension. Nobody could quite believe that somebody could be murdered, especially while sleeping in their own bed over the Christmas period. People just felt unsafe, really. Would this person attack again? Who was next?
In the pretty coastal village of Bosham, news is spreading that artist Valerie Graves has been brutally murdered while house-sitting over Christmas.
I work for some elderly clients that live in Bosham Home, and they were absolutely petrified because they're both in their 80s. The realisation that there's obviously a murderer out there, that the lady had been murdered in her sleep and they didn't know why.
When the details did come out, and you realise the sort of the gravity and the viciousness of the attack, it was quite worrying at the time. For a few months, everyone was sort of watching themselves or looking over their shoulders a little bit, thinking, could it be him? Could it be her?
With a murder investigation underway, police need to consider who would want to harm Valerie. Due to tides and flooding in the village at that time of year, police believe it's unlikely to have been an opportunist burglar. Meaning one thing, the killer has to be local.
The weather was particularly miserable, lots of local floods going on, and it's not the sort of area that passing traffic would go through. You have to sort of go out of your way to get into Bosham. And so I would imagine over that period, it was almost a kind of a lockdown in that area where the locals would just stay there and no one would come to visit unless it was to visit family and friends.
The area was pretty flooded. Not many visitors would have come to the area at this time of the year. It's Christmas. People would be spending time with their families together. And there was no real need for visitors, so the speculation was it must have been somebody local.
With the community the centre of a major investigation, everyone is a suspect.
The police came knocking on everybody's doors, and literally everybody. I mean, they came with a tool, and they would interview each member of the family separately.
Police have several avenues in which to explore.
You'd also want to know who else has access to that address. So we know that the occupiers are away on holiday. A few phone calls could easily establish where they are and whether they had opportunity to get back to the address. But you're also thinking, well, who would do this and why would they do this? You know, Valerie was 55 years of age. She was in bed. She posed no threat to anyone. And so why would somebody do this? And you then start thinking about who lives in the area that could possibly have the motive to do this.
Having ruled out Valerie's family and the owners of the house who were abroad, Valerie's body is taken for a post-mortem examination. Could this lead provide clues as to the cause of death and the sort of person who would commit such an atrocious crime?
The thing that all postmortems are looking for is a medical cause of death. Physically, why is this person dead? But the forensic postmortem also looks at, in more detail, the injuries present, patterns of injury, what the likely implement that may have caused them was, when they may have occurred, and really trying to get a much more clear narrative of the events surrounding this person's death. The expertise is in what sort of weapon was it, how much force was used, have they defended themselves.
The principal injuries were to her head. I'm looking at the pathology report now. There was extreme complexity to the wounds, signs of multiple blows from a heavy object, impossible for the pathologist to determine just how many blows.
It's a physical effort to strike someone multiple times with sufficient force to damage them. It is not an easy task, and it is not something that can be achieved in a second or two. This is a sustained, violent assault.
The injuries that not only cause laceration of the skin, but also complete disruption of the central facial skeleton of the jaw, together with depressed fractures of the skull, with extending fractures to the base of the skull. And there was a patterned injury to the left side of the forehead, showing a semicircle, which, in the pathologist's opinion, would be consistent with the application of force from the round end of a hammer.
If somebody has died as a result of multiple blows with a hammer to the head, it will be clear from the size and shape of the injuries that that is what occurred. The normal head of the hammer is going to leave round to oval lacerations and abrasions when it strikes the body.
Having discovered Valerie was battered to death with a hammer, tragically the post-mortem reveals how she tried to fight off her attacker.
There's a level of defensive injuries sustained to Mrs. Graves, her left hand that she must have raised above her head to shield her head from the blows, revealed extensive bruising to the back of her hand, together with fractures of 2 of the bones of that hand.
Police still cannot believe no one in the house heard the attack, but now they have a new focus. Could the hammer reveal clues as to the perpetrator? And does the killer still have it?
You then have a cursory search around the premises to make sure that the weapon hasn't been left by the offender, because that could yield some forensic opportunities. And then you work your way into the grounds of the premises and bring in sufficient officers to conduct that search, which will include lifting up drains, looking at people's bins, going through people's gardens, and then just increasing out from the crime scene itself in case the offender has taken the weapon with them and then discarded it en route back to wherever they come from.
With the pressure on to find a hammer-wielding killer, local tradespeople are under the spotlight.
When I got interviewed by the police, it's because I was working for my elderly clients, so they'd obviously lived in the area and I worked for them, so they were interviewing everybody that was in the local vicinity. So, you know, they wanted to know exactly what make of hammer that I had in the van, and yeah, it was quite worrying.
And it isn't long before their hunch pays off and police make an announcement.
A man has been arrested on suspicion of the murder of an artist who was found dead at a property she was house-sitting over the Christmas period.
He lived very close to the scene of the crime, together with the fact that his occupation was manual, he was a labourer, may well have led the police to arrest him.
With a man being questioned, police continue to build their case and look for evidence.
They'll also be doing other forensic examinations within the crime scene, so there will be a number of fingerprints, for example, that may turn up within the house that are alien to that address. But it could be a window cleaner, it could be somebody who's done work in that address previously. And so these inquiries need to be bottomed out. And sometimes if you get a fingerprint of an individual together with an account that cannot be corroborated and they're not alibied, then that will give sufficient grounds for the police to arrest an individual and put further questions to them under caution.
The arrested man is interviewed extensively by police.
Despite the fact he spent some time in police custody, he was fully exonerated.
Police are back to square one. But then a discovery is made.
A weapon was found about 600 metres away from the home. It was that of a red claw hammer.
The finding of the hammer was absolutely crucial. It had the blood of Mrs. Graves on it, and therefore was the murder weapon.
And the hammer itself had been exposed to the elements for a couple of days, which means the opportunity to yield forensic evidence is reducing daily. But that said, the scientists were able to yield a DNA profile confirming Valerie's DNA. And then what the scientists also found was a very small partial DNA, and all they could say was that it related to a male individual.
Police now believe for certain Valerie's killer was male. Who is he? And why would he want Valerie dead? Investigations ramp up a notch and the search for the owner of the hammer begins.
The hammer was a 16-ounce forged steel claw hammer, the sort of hammer you'd find from any DIY store. But to show the depth of the police investigation, they contacted Screwfix, who are the company who manufactured this hammer, and then trawled through the records of those suppliers who had sold this type of hammer and then tried to eliminate purchasers from their inquiries.
The risks around having a partial profile is obviously you don't know who it belongs to, and actually it could be an innocent profile. So it could have been, the shopkeeper that sold that hammer. It could be their profile. It could be somebody who's borrowed that hammer. So it may not necessarily link to the murderer, but at least it gives you an idea as to who you want to speak to that may have had contact with that hammer, and then that can then lead on to further inquiries.
With a partial DNA profile on the hammer, every male in the surrounding area is suddenly the focus of police attention.
The next step then is to start looking at males within the area, matching a certain criteria, who they're then going to ask to come forward and voluntarily give their DNA. It's a very expensive and time-consuming process.
Everybody was asked to come and volunteer, including people such as the postman, people that live nearby, anybody in the area.
They set up a mass DNA screening process where they asked local men from the age of 17 and upwards to come to a location, bring their ID with them, give them a thumbprint, and then offer a DNA sample that can then be checked against the partial male DNA profile that the police already had, so that they could either be ruled in or ruled out of that investigation.
So the response locally was outstanding because there was a joint desire in this small village town, Bosham, that they wanted a culprit caught, not just, of course, for Mrs. Graves and her friends and family, but because they had, on the face of it, a very dangerous man out loose.
There was DNA testing stations set up around the village. Myself and a few friends, and there's loads of us all went to, everyone that I know of went and got tested. I don't think anyone refused or didn't go. I think it was the sort of thing that actually, do you know what? If you haven't got anything to hide, then you've got no problem going and doing a DNA test.
Months of DNA screening takes place in Bosham and the surrounding villages.
So the police will do all they can to try and detect this crime. They need to do this for the family, but also to reassure the community that there isn't somebody dangerous still out and about. So they'll be undertaking all sorts of inquiries. The forensic searches alone will take, many weeks, if not months. And then with those samples will take many more months to then try and establish whether any DNA can be taken from those samples.
But as time ticks away, the hunt for Valerie's killer goes cold.
The police were at a loss. There were no new leads. Nobody had come forward with any more information.
5 years after her murder, Valerie's family, the police, and the villagers of Bosham are left fearing her killer will never be found.
So they were mystified, absolutely mystified. Who could have wanted this lady harm?
It's 5 years since the murder of Valerie Graves in the quaint coastal resort of Bosham in West Sussex, and police are no nearer to a suspect or a motive.
At first, we thought there might be a quick outcome to solving the crime because it's quite a heinous crime, but there was nothing at all for weeks and then months and then ultimately years.
Having found a partial DNA profile of a male on a hammer believed to be the murder weapon, police have spread their net around the surrounding villages in the hunt for a suspect.
It led to thousands of hours of police work. 4,500 occupants of local homes in the area were questioned. 600 statements were taken. 3,059 males were eliminated by large-scale DNA screening.
In December 2018, I had a statement from the police renewing their appeal to find Valerie's murderer 5 years on. It was a really good statement. They were offering a substantial reward for any information at all. So for me, this was my front page story for that week. It was Christmas. It was a quiet news week anyway. And this was a real heartfelt story that I felt people need to read about, even at this time. It might just jog someone's memory. It might just nudge them to remembering something that perhaps they felt was insignificant, but that would help police lead to an arrest at last and help the family put this to bed at last.
The police can't solve this on their own. They do need the assistance of the community, and quite often they will use the media to support them with that. Sadly, at times we have to offer a financial incentive for people to come forward, so it's not unusual for a reward to be put up for information that would lead to the arrest and prosecution of the offender. But you hope in cases like this that really do trouble the community that, you know, somebody, if they had information, they would come forward and they wouldn't be motivated by money.
With no clues as to who killed Valerie, police take a step back and re-examine the moments leading to her death. The attack had been so ferocious, so how had no one in the house heard a thing?
So this was a large house. Her sister and her mother and her sister's partner were sleeping in bedrooms upstairs. Valerie was sleeping downstairs in a ground floor bedroom where there were patio doors that then led onto the back garden. At that point, we know that somebody then entered those patio doors and then sadly, brutally murdered her with a blunt instrument.
Police dig a little deeper into their victim.
The profile of Valerie Graves did surprise us all as a victim. She was just an ordinary person, for as far as we know, had no reason to be murdered in such a way or at all.
Valerie had spent a few days looking after the sumptuous property off Smugglers Lane with her sister, sister's partner, and her mum. And December 29th, 2013 was a quiet night in.
We know that Valerie and her family were in the house. They pretty much stayed in that evening to watch TV, as most families do. I think they were probably getting tired of the Christmas period. You know, Christmas had followed, birthday celebration had taken place, and it was a normal evening. So they'd all watched TV, and then by about 10 o'clock that evening, they all put themselves to bed.
Mrs. Graves was found by her sister the following morning. Initially, she thought that her sister was sleeping in. She shouted out, her door was slightly ajar, the door to her bedroom, and there was no response. She thought perhaps she was lying in. And it was only later when she went in through that door, she saw Mrs. Graves' legs sticking out under the duvet and realised that she was cold. And in panic, of course, naturally, she then rang the police.
Was this a planned murder? Had Valerie been targeted?
For me, there would be a number of hypotheses. The first one is that this is possibly a family member. You know, there'd been a dispute that evening and things have got out of hand and unfortunately, Valerie's been assaulted. Another hypothesis is that she was targeted, but you then think, well, who would know she was there? This isn't her home address, so is she under surveillance by somebody? Is there a relationship that's gone wrong in the past that somebody is looking to assault and injure Valerie?
Well, the police found it extremely difficult to ascertain why someone would attack Mrs. Graves. She was well known, well liked, well loved, and they found it very difficult to imagine anyone would target her.
Police had already ruled out Valerie's distraught family and find nothing in her background which could suggest someone holds a grudge against her.
They thought, perhaps naturally, that it was a case of mistaken identity, an attacker wanting to seek vengeance on someone for some reason.
The people that owned the house, there were all sorts of rumours that went round about them and hitman men and all sorts of silly rumours.
Rumours even spread that the house had been advertised on a site for swingers wanting sex parties and that the family had been there at the wrong time.
There was a lot of wild rumours, speculation at the time. Some of it completely untrue, some of it perhaps a little bit more close to the truth.
But with no real clues coming forward, police home in on one explanation.
Some of these villages, people are of the mindset they don't have to lock their doors, whereas if you live in a city centre, you're probably more likely to do that. Was this an opportunist burglar who just happened to be in the area? Again, unlikely, I would have thought, because it's such a remote location, and therefore Was it a burglar who knew exactly what they were going for? Because they knew that the occupants were away.
Police now believe Valerie's murder was the result of a burglary gone wrong, and that the burglar knew the owners were due to be away. But even that theory throws up questions.
What seemed rather peculiar was that if it was a burglary, why was nothing taken? Seems rather a loss of effort and savagery, for want of a better word, to then leave empty-handed. So they were mystified, absolutely mystified.
Having already tested thousands of locals for their DNA and come up blank, and despite offering a reward for information leading to an arrest, police are still no closer to a suspect. And then, everything changes.
On the 10th of July 2019, Cristian Sabu was arrested at his home address in Romania. He was asked whether he'd killed Valerie Graves.
But who is Cristian Sabu? And what would he know about such a brutal and bloody murder all those years ago? 5.5 years after the brutal murder of grandmother Valerie Graves in the village of Bosham, West Sussex, there's been a development.
The police got in touch with us in July 2019 to let us know that an arrest had been made for Valerie's murder. This came as a huge shock to everybody. It seemed to come out of nowhere at all.
Hearing the name Valerie Graves come up again in the news was quite a shock, and hearing that they'd made an arrest.
The man is 28-year-old Cristian Sabu. But what had led to an arrest of a man in Romania so long after the murder?
Years had passed since the brutal murder of Valerie, and the police finally had a breakthrough in that they had been contacted by email by a lady in Transylvania, in Romania, indicating that her husband was responsible for the murder.
But who is he? Did he kill Valerie? And why?
What the police have managed to establish is back in 2013, Cristian Sabu had moved from Romania over to England and was living in a caravan on the A27 in West Sussex, very close to Bosham. Some suggestion he was looking for work, maybe done a bit of scrap metal dealing, but also some local odd jobs as well in the area.
Cristian Sabu left the UK and went back to Romania. That is where he lived with his partner, had a child, lived a normal, as it turns out, law-abiding life.
But 5 years later, Cristian Sabu's partner and mother of his 2 children tips off police that her husband is the killer.
When the police receive information like this, you have to be very cautious in the first instance. You have to question what the motive is for this female to come forward and say that Cristian Sabu was responsible for the murder. I understand they were going through some matrimonial difficulties at that time. So, was her motive to try and, get him into trouble when perhaps he may have been an innocent person?
His wife had seen on Google that he'd been searching about the murder.
He'd been checking out the reporting of the Valerie Graves murder in Bosham back in 2013. And at that time, her and her husband were living just down the road on the A27 in West Sussex.
And she recognised the hammer that he'd been looking at. And she confronted him and asked him, isn't this the hammer that you had in England?
But reporting her suspicions to police is not enough to arrest Cristian Sabu for murder. They need irrefutable proof to secure a European arrest warrant to bring him back to the UK. Focus turns back to the hammer found discarded near the crime scene. Could this now hold the key to solving the case?
What the police did have was this partial male DNA profile, which could either implicate or eliminate Christian Sabu very, very easily if we had his DNA.
But Christian Sabu appears to have lived a crime-free life. His DNA is not on the UK or European police database, so they turn to his partner for help.
The police had to think long and hard as to how were they going to get a DNA sample from Christian Sabu without alerting him. Because if we do alert him, then, without arresting him, he could disappear and then we may never catch him. And so what they asked for through the Romanian police and Christian Sabu's wife was to get DNA samples from his 2 children, which could then show a familial link to the partial DNA profile. And that's what they did.
And the results changed the course of the now cold murder investigation.
It came back as a likeliness that the partial DNA profile that they had found on the hammer was linked to Christian Sabu.
And then, of course, under a European arrest warrant, to bring Mr. Sabu, to his credit, without any fuss, he didn't object, he cooperated fully, and he was then brought to England.
I felt really sorry for his wife. Finding out this news must have been really horrific. This is someone that she's been married to for some time, she has children with. It must have been a real devastating blow to her. She must have feared for her own safety and for her children. I can't imagine what was going through her mind at the time. It must have been really horrible. And I imagine she was probably torn as well. This is the man that she's married to, that she no doubt loves. And she's probably in a really difficult situation.
On 19th July 2019, Christian Sabu is extradited to the UK.
The feeling in the village and the surrounding areas was just pure relief. People felt like at last this had been solved.
Sabu appears at Brighton Magistrates Court, charged with the murder of Valerie Graves.
Mr. Sabu presented as a thoroughly normal man. Uncomplicated. He was uncomplicated from the moment I met him. He was quiet. He wasn't a man of many words, though of course we had an interpreter. He still was not a man who spoke much. He was still, I thought, even with all the years, he was 22 at the time of the incident, 28 when I met him. He was still in shock. That was my belief about what had happened. He couldn't explain it to himself. And he was remorseful.
The man standing before court is at odds with the description of such a brutal killing.
He basically admitted the crime. He said that, he had little money. He was aware of the house. He knew that there were valuables inside that house. And more importantly, he knew that the owners were away over the Christmas period. So when he broke in, he was surprised to see Valerie, who confronted him. He had the hammer in his possession, and sadly, he then beat her with that hammer.
In November 2019, Christian Sabu takes the stand at Lewes Crown Court.
It was always the intention that he would be pleading guilty to the murder of Mrs. Graves.
He did say that he felt bad about it. He didn't mean to hurt her. He told the court how he had something to drink, cycled to the property in the belief that the property was empty. He'd gone there to burgle the place effectively, and he was shocked to find Valerie there. He said that he panicked, and that's when the attack took place. He said that he'd never meant to hurt her.
What remains perhaps a mystery to this day is why Mr. Sabu, on realising that there was someone in that room and in the house, simply didn't turn and leave. But he did strike her several times with extreme force. And I think only he will know what was going through his mind, but clearly full of panic. Alcohol, panic, stupidity.
Summing up the case, the judge accepted that Sabu had not intended to kill and sentenced him to 24 years in prison.
The judge on sentencing Christian Sabu said this: Mrs. Graves' head injuries were so severe that her maximum survival time would have been less than an hour. This was a sustained attack, and the terror and trauma for her in the final few minutes of her life is unimaginable. You had gone to those premises intending to burgle them, to steal from a safe you believed contained a lot of money. You took with you the hammer. You say you had been told the owners were away and therefore were unaware that Valerie, her mum, her sister and her sister's partner would all be in the house. It appears you entered the house via the patio doors in the room in which Mrs. Graves was sleeping. When you realised your mistake, namely that the room was occupied, rather than simply running away in the hope you couldn't be identified by a woman waking from sleep, you launched this horrific attack on Mrs. Graves, who had been asleep in that room. It was your dishonesty and greed that took you to the house. It was your cowardice and lack of morality that caused you to kill Valerie Graves.
7 years since the murder of Valerie Graves, the village of Bosom is slowly returning to normal, but the crime still lingers over them.
Although this had gone on for such a long time, it was in the forefront of a lot of people's minds. There was always that feeling of who did it. And I'm sure many of the men in the area perhaps felt they might have been looked at.
I mean, I was very glad that he got caught, because it meant you can just go back to normal life. Whereas before, you do have this nickel in the background that somebody's murdered somebody from locally, because who else would go there? For a long time we did think it must be somebody around here. I mean, who else could have done it?
I think the general feeling was one of relief that actually, you know, the chap had been found and the family could get some peace. Also that it wasn't someone in the village. I think that was, you know, even after all that time, I think that was still a bit of a relief that it wasn't a chap living up the road or, you know, someone you may know.
And the family of Valerie Graves can finally try to rebuild their lives.
We have had to endure 6 years of waiting, not knowing if anyone would ever be brought to justice for this cowardly act. Mum was very much loved by our family, just sorely missed by us all.
Of millions of pounds. He had just disappeared.
There were rumours going around that he'd had a run-in with some of the community that might have been using his fields.
I got the phone call saying, "Can you please come over? My Land Rover's been burnt out."
So the police were lined up all the way along.
The police combed hundreds of acres.
What was it you were worried about the police finding out? Is it a sort of secret message about what you're going to do to Bill?
Gosmore, the quintessential picture postcard hamlet nestled deep in the Hertfordshire countryside.
It's the kind of place where a lot of neighbours know each other. It's very friendly. You know, people will take in parcels for each other and meet in the pub for a few drinks here and there. So it's got a good community feel to it.
It's this kind of idyllic South England hamlet, rolling farmland.
And the majority of the farmland in Gosmore is owned by the Taylor family.
William Taylor was known as Bill to his friends. He was a 69-year-old farmer from a village in Hertfordshire, and he had a vast farming estate worth tens of millions of pounds.
Bill Taylor was a salt-of-the-earth sort of character. His ambition in life was to buy a farm And not only did he buy a farm, he bought several farms and he became incredibly wealthy.
He never took any holiday, and I mean that. He always worked on the farm. And he would always say hello to me and to anybody else. He was always friendly.
Bill lived in Harkness Hall in Gosmore with 53-year-old wife Angela.
He was married to Angela Taylor, who was 17 years his junior. So they'd been married for nearly 20 years. Both been married before, both had children from previous marriages, and they had 3 children together.
Bill and his whole family, they're so lovely. He was friendly, quite talkative. I did ask you how your day was. He was just such a lovely man.
As well as his 3 children with Angela, Bill also has one son from his first marriage, Richard, who lives nearby with his wife Emma and 4 children.
We did everything together. We were lovingly referred to as the dream team. I enjoyed spending time with Dad. It didn't matter what we were doing, as long as we were together, I was happy.
He also used to come down to this farm, and he always used to be around 10:30 to 11:30 every day to see his son and have a cup of tea and have a bit of biscuit or cake and talk to his son about farming.
Angela and Bill's relationship came to an amicable end in 2015. And she took over running 2 of the farms.
He certainly still loved Angela after 25 years of marriage, and he never actually got divorced to her, and he still wanted to get back with her.
Well, my parents, they separated in 2015. They were still getting on, so I didn't see any problem there. They still worked the farm together wherever they went.
Bill felt really strongly about his family, so instead of divorcing her, he agreed to settle the farm between Richard, his first son, and Angela. She moved into a farmhouse not very far away from where Bill lived, and Bill would go every evening and he would have supper with them. And then he would come back to his own home, which was Harkness Hall, where he lived on his own.
As Bill was getting older, his son Richard worried about him and turned to friends for help.
I cooked meals for him for a couple of months, and a couple of times I used to stay for perhaps 2 or 3 nights at Harkness Hall, and I then moved in on a permanent basis.
And Sunday, June 3rd, 2018 was like any other day for Bill.
I took Grandad round his Sunday roast, as I had every Sunday for the last 6 weeks. I arrived just after 7 p.m. and sat with him and talked while he ate. We spoke about the farm. He asked about the cultivator we'd just collected. He was looking forward to being busy with hay and silage very soon, with the harvest just round the corner.
But life for the Taylor family was about to change. For all of them, forever.
On the 4th of June, Mr. Lush had come back from a trip in the early hours of the morning. He'd gone to bed and woken up in the morning, and he said there was dishes in the sink that were dirty, which was unusual because Bill was a very clean person. He would, even if there was one dish, that would be clean, so he thought that was odd.
I left the house in the morning about 5 to 7. Bill normally gets up at 7 o'clock, and he hadn't got up. And I came back at about 11 o'clock, found the post on the floor had been delivered and not been picked up by Bill, and I found the washing up in the basin still there.
He could just tell something wasn't right. Bill would be walking around the farm. He would always be up first before him. He gave it a couple of hours, thinking maybe he was sleeping in, he was getting older. But he eventually found it so suspicious he had to physically open the bedroom door himself.
I went upstairs, knocked on the door, opened the door, found that his pyjamas were on the pillow, and the bed, all made up and definitely not being slept in. I went downstairs, phoned Richard, asked him whether Bill had been in for his usual morning cup of tea or coffee, and Richard said no, he hadn't seen him.
It was a busy day, and I did think it was strange that he didn't come down, but as the day went on, concern rose and Dad sent me to look for Grandad. After checking the house, which felt eerie, I immediately suspected something had happened. I called Dad and we checked the whole farm, before meeting up at Harkness Hall and getting Richard Lush to call the police.
It was so out of the ordinary for Bill, who'd lived there all his life, to go missing, to not check in with anyone, for nobody to have seen him around the farm.
The family spent the whole of the day on the 4th of June searching for him, trying to find him without success. So in the evening of the 4th of June, Mr. Taylor was reported as a missing person.
Police start interviewing those closest to Bill.
Clearly, he was a man who was devoted to his family and spent a lot of time with his family. So it was essential that we speak to all of the family to build a picture and understand who Bill was, what he did on a day-to-day basis, and effectively work back from that to try and understand where he'd gone missing.
Why would Bill have disappeared without telling anyone? As police start to investigate, information starts to emerge about what was really going on in his life.
He had his family from his first marriage and his family from the second marriage to Angela Taylor, which it's fair to say don't get on at all. So there was a natural divide, there was a natural split between the two sides of the family.
The relationship between Angela and Richard was just one of complete loathing and hatred. They didn't get on, barely spoke. Both of them were deeply suspicious of each other's role in William's life. Both thought that each other was greedy and after Bill's money.
Bill was definitely in the middle of the feud, and he was always the one trying to sort it out.
He was really getting pulled by both sides, loyalty to his son and also to his wife, who he loved.
Seriously thought, well, he's obviously had enough of the family feud, he's obviously just walked out. I mean, he knows farmers up and down the country, he could have just walked off anywhere and just not told anyone and just thought, well, sod you lot, I'll let you all worry about me for a change.
When the police went to the property, there was various documents in the house, including a very sort of emotional letter to Angela. It wasn't a goodbye letter like a suicide letter. It was just trying to explain to her how much she meant to him.
Hertfordshire police have to consider the possibility that Bill, fed up with fractures in the family, needed some time out. But could he have been suffering more than he let on?
In order to structure the investigation, I need to consider, has he gone away? Just decided he's had enough and wants to lose himself? Has he committed suicide? And there was an indication from certain parts of the family that Bill had been feeling depressed about a number of situations. Had he become ill or incapacitated somewhere whilst working in his farm or on his land? That needed to be considered.
Officers start to trawl the vast area of farmland.
The police combed through his land, which was extensive, hundreds of acres, in case he'd got into difficulty. He was approaching, he was just days before his 70th birthday that he went missing, and he was quite infirm with the arthritis.
The police knocked on our door and gave us a missing poster, and they searched the field right in front of the house.
So the police were lined up all from the back of the field, all the way along. There must have been between 30 and 40 policemen, and I can see out of my window upstairs them searching it, which was just a crazy thing to come out of the house and look at, really.
And that took us between 8 and 10 weeks to complete that search. If Bill had committed suicide, or if he'd become ill whilst working on his land, we would have expected to have found him within the area of that search, which we didn't.
But as the missing person investigation intensifies, some information comes to light.
In the week before Bill was reported missing, his vehicle, a Land Rover that was parked in the barn at his home address, had been subject of an arson attack.
Suddenly, police start to think, does someone hold a grudge against Bill? Is someone out to get him? Has something more sinister happened? In the picturesque hamlet of Gosmore, nestled in the Hertfordshire countryside, new information has come to light about the days leading up to the disappearance of 69-year-old millionaire farmer Bill Taylor.
I got the phone call Sunday morning from Bill saying, can you please come over? My Land Rover's been burnt out. I asked Bill the question of who did he think burnt out the Land Rover? His answer back to me was immediate, that he thought it was his son Michael.
Michael denies this and says he too was confused as to who would do such a thing.
I think the last time I saw my dad, this was just after this Land Rover had been arsoned, and I didn't believe him, so he shouted down on the phone to me and said, well, get your backside up here and I'll show you what's going on. And that day, we were just went in the house with him and we were trying to figure out who the hell could have done something like this, why they had done something like this, and try and figure out why and where and how and what's going on, sort of thing.
There were rumours going around that there were lots of trespassers on his land, and he'd had a run-in with some of the travelling community that might have been using his fields, and other people have told me that it might be a calling card when your car gets torched if you've had a run-in with those sorts of people.
As forensic examinations begin on the Land Rover, the search for Bill Taylor and the questioning of those known to him intensifies.
Police spoke to all of his close contacts, people that he would have worked with, farmhands, labourers, and his wife, his children.
We treat both sides of the family in exactly the same way. We request exactly the same information from them.
At the time of being questioned, we just assumed it was protocol and something that we had to go through. If it helped the search for Dad, it didn't matter. Myself and my family did everything we were asked to do by the police without question.
Effectively, what we're doing is we're treating all of those people as witnesses. We would hope that out of their care and concern for a missing family member, that they would engage with us and be compliant and provide us with what we're asking for.
As police delve deeper into Bill's background, more information about the divide between Bill's two families emerges.
As far as I was aware, the family feud started when I was only about 10, 15 at the time.
As tensions between the two families grew, Bill and his son Richard stopped talking for a few years.
Bill and Richard were completely estranged, didn't talk to each other. There was no communication between them. And similarly, Richard despised Angela. Saw her as just trying to get as much out of his dad as possible.
I was never made to feel welcome around my grandfather's house. One incident I remember clearly was when I was 11 or 12. I'd been muck-cart with my grandfather and was invited in for a cup of tea. He couldn't stop offering me things to eat, biscuits, cakes, etc. I felt he was happy with me being there and was trying to make me feel as welcome as possible. However, he heard a car pull up and looked out the window, and he said, "Drink up and I'll take you home," and tried to hurry me up. Then Angela came in and he didn't want me in the house with her. Angela despised me and my whole family. It was a sickening hate, pure evil.
In 2015, Bill and Angela separated, but remained close. And soon after, relations between Bill and Richard began to thaw.
I think because he was talking to his son again, he was certainly a lot more at ease and happier with himself. And he was talking to his son, and life was getting back to normal.
Police need to establish if the family feud could have had anything to do with Bill's disappearance. But then a discovery is made, which turns the missing person investigation on its head.
Bill's grandson did actually approach us in relation to a link from a bracelet that he had found in the farmyard, which he told us was like a bracelet that his grandfather wore.
Bill suffered from arthritis and he would always wear a bracelet to help him with that. So suddenly they have the broken links from this bracelet just a stone's throw from his house next to his cowshed.
I did have my suspicions, especially when Ben found this bracelet in the cattle barn 2 days later, that something had happened to him.
3 months after Bill's disappearance, and the course of the investigation changes.
When all of those normal inquiries that we would conduct, including searching premises to try and locate the missing person, have all been exhausted, it starts to suggest that perhaps there may be foul play involved.
By September, it was pretty obvious to the police that there was something afoot.
There'd been no sightings of Bill. There'd been no activity on his bank accounts and so on and so forth that you would normally associate with somebody still being alive and well and just living their life in another location.
They really needed to tell everyone, including the family, that things had moved on. And this was now a murder investigation.
I remember when the family liaison officers came to see us at home. It was around 7 a.m. to inform us that 3 family members and another man had been arrested for Dad's murder. They didn't state who at that point.
I remember Richard coming in one morning and saying, they've all been arrested down at the farm where they are. I said, what? He said, at 2 o'clock in the morning, the police arrived and arrested Mrs. Taylor and they arrested the 2 boys.
We were dragged out of bed early in the morning and I was in state of shock at this time, saying I was being arrested on suspicion of this, this and this. And I was just totally baffled. I just didn't know what to say. You know, it really hit me. It hit me hard. It hit me very hard. You know, even my own dad, that bloody hurt.
Bill's estranged wife, Angela, and her 2 sons with Bill are bailed pending further inquiries, but a 4th person is arrested. Local man Paul Cannon.
He was a labourer, he drove diggers, he worked here and there.
He was working in a quarry. He was looking for somewhere to stay. He'd actually been moving some soil and earth on Bill's farm, and it was through that contact that they got to know each other.
As part of the forensic investigation, we were aware that items used in that arson could be forensically connected to Paul Cannon. So obviously that started to elevate my concerns around Paul Cannon and his potential involvement in Bill's disappearance.
Despite linking Paul Cannon to the arson attack on Bill's Land Rover, police have no other evidence as to where Bill is, or whether he has come to any harm. But something has come to light to throw suspicion on his wife, Angela.
What my family liaison officer team brought to my attention was their concerns around the behaviour of Angela and that side of the family. Angela would never proactively phone and ask us if we'd found Bill.
I mean, this was meant to be his wife of 17 years. I don't think she was particularly heartbroken or as worried as she might have been.
Paul Cannon was carrying on with what seemed like a daily life, and so was Angela Taylor. And yet Richard Taylor's family were all out doing searches in the fields looking for Bill.
They were always on the phone, you know, what's going on? Have you found Dad? They clearly came across as a genuinely concerned family who were desperate to understand what had happened, whereas Angela's side of the family were the complete opposite.
They were heard by detectives to be talking about Bill already in the past tense, while at this stage he was still officially a missing person.
So do his wife Angela and farm labourer Paul know more about what had happened to Bill than they are letting on? And the question remains, where is Bill? And why would anyone want to harm him? In the quiet Hertfordshire hamlet of Gosmore, police investigating the disappearance of local farmer Bill Taylor have made arrests.
In September, Angela and Paul and 2 of her and Bill's sons were arrested.
Their accounts were what I would call wishy-washy, very non-committal. They simply suggested Bill's disappearance must be down to Richard Taylor and his side of the family, but there was actually no basis for that accusation.
And then they were bailed pending further inquiries.
Police have linked local man Paul Cannon with the arson attack on Bill's Land Rover, but now suspect he knows more about Bill's disappearance than he is letting on.
By the middle of August, I was of the mindset that Bill hadn't disappeared voluntarily, that he hadn't committed suicide, and that he hadn't become ill or incapacitated. And therefore I was left to start investigating that this was actually a criminal act.
At this time, police were now treating the case as a murder investigation.
But with no sign of Bill or a body, police have their work cut out to try to tie Paul and Angela to something more sinister.
When those people were arrested, we conducted searches at their home addresses. In doing that, there appeared to be gaps in their mobile phone downloads. There seemed to be messages and call records that had been deleted, which raised concern as to, well, why? If you're innocent, why do you need to delete certain aspects of your phone history?
Paul Cannon had deleted thousands of messages between Angela and himself, but unbeknownst to him, the messages were still available to police on the memory of his phone, and they extracted 28,000 messages between Paul and Angela between February and June 2018.
With so many messages between them, police start to wonder, what is the connection between Angela and the farm labourer?
Paul was looking for a farm building to rent. And he came down to one of our yards and rented an old corn bin of us. And then just suddenly he started coming in the house a bit more. As far as I was aware, there was nothing going on, and it was just a normal friendship.
But the messages found by officers suggest otherwise.
From the initial telephone downloads, we were aware that Angela Taylor and Paul Cannon had been having a conversation in January of 2018 where they were discussing Bill and his reluctance to agree to a divorce.
Paul Cannon was besotted with her. You could tell from the strength of his messages that strength of feeling for her was incredible.
There was lots of sexualised content. There was lots of imagining really unpleasant images.
It was always suspected that he was involved in some form of relationship with Angela Taylor.
So are Angela and Paul really having a relationship? And had Bill got in the way of their plans for a future together?
She'd already actually acquired 2 farms, which were worth millions of pounds, and she'd acquired those debt-free from Bill as part of a separation agreement.
There was a post-nuptial agreement. Bill had already signed over significant land and property, so certainly on her part there was no financial motive.
With Angela wealthy in her own right, police cannot find a reason as to why she would want Bill out of her life, and are back to square one. But police are convinced he is dead. Investigators then receive information which makes them take a closer look at Paul Cannon.
A call to the investigation team established that there was a vehicle, a Suzuki Vitara Jeep, that until recently had been seen at the family's home address but had subsequently gone missing. We were able to establish that Paul Cannon had actually started trying to, for want of a better phrase, get rid of that vehicle around the 4th and 5th June. And in fact, by the 7th of June, he had disposed of that vehicle. Of course, the relevance being Bill's reported missing on the 4th, so within 3 days of that report being made, Paul Cannon has got rid of this vehicle.
That vehicle was found in Bulgaria months later. The fact that you sell a Jeep for cash shortly after someone you're accused of killing disappears perhaps doesn't look the most innocent.
We were able to recover that vehicle from Bulgaria and bring it back to the UK for examination. And our case was that Bill was murdered on the night of the 3rd into the 4th of June, that his body was taken to the deposition site in that vehicle, and then that vehicle was disposed of to eliminate the possibility of us recovering any forensic evidence from it.
The recovered vehicle offers up no clues to help the team, but further digital investigations into messages on Angela and Paul's phones suddenly spark interest.
On the night of Bill's disappearance, the 3rd and the 4th of June, there is a message sent from Cannon to Angela Taylor at 23:36.
He said that he was just watching Kill Bill 2.
And Taylor replies, "One would be enough." I made a decision that they were to be arrested before they were due to answer bail on the 3rd of December.
Angela and Paul were charged with murder, conspiracy to murder, and arson over the death of Bill Taylor.
Well, that was a big shock. I mean, my head was just everywhere. I just didn't know what to think. I just thought, no way. That was the first thing, no way. They couldn't have done something like that. No way. He must have just walked out. You know, just give it a bit of time, he'll come back. You know, that was all that kept going through my head.
The pair are subjected to intense questioning.
Are you ever going to tell us where Bill's buried? Because that might be a redeeming feature, mightn't it? Might help the case. Returning him to Richard and his family.
But neither admit having played any part in the disappearance of Bill Taylor.
Did you think that WhatsApp can be accessed by police? What was it you were worried about police finding out?
Is it handy? Is it a sort of secret message between the two of you about what you're going to do, Bill?
By January 2019, police are ready to take the case to court.
One of the things that we would do in the case of what you would call a no-body murder is conduct proof of life inquiries. And that is essentially building a picture of how Bill lived his life, demonstrating to the court that as of this date, everything stopped and Bill ceased to exist.
But as the trial date looms, there's a discovery, which threatens to turn the whole course of the investigation on its head.
On the 10th of February 2019, Bill's body was discovered.
10th of February 2019, Sunday afternoon about 4 p.m, we were sitting in a lounge when the girls came down and said the police were here. Before they said anything, we just knew they'd found Dad.
We all knew by the looks on their faces that they'd found Bill. It felt like the world had just stopped spinning.
It was a very surprising discovery. It was made by a fisherman who had been looking for a fishing site but had gone off the beaten track, gone into an area that he wasn't supposed to go, into private land, and had discovered what appeared to be a body in overalls, partially submerged in very thick mud in the river. This body was identified as Bill Taylor's.
Even though we knew Bill wasn't coming back alive, until his body was found, there was this minuscule hope that it wasn't real. Now that was gone, and we had to accept that he'd been murdered.
He was totally decomposed. He was largely skeletal. He was still upright in the mud, waist deep in the mud, wearing his Wellington boots and blue overalls.
I just didn't know what to think. My head was just everywhere, totally spinning. And, you know, just never thought I'd go for anything like this in my whole entire life, ever.
The discovery throws doubt on it being a murder.
The unusual aspects are that there were items found in and around Bill's body.
Scattered around the body was a half-eaten corn on the cob, bizarrely, a bottle of Bailey's liqueur, a ceramic teacup from Bill's house, and some lengths of rope were near the body as well.
Had Bill, in fact, gone off on his own accord those 8 months ago?
He's gone to some boggy ground, he's got drunk and he's got stuck in the mud, or got into some kind of accident, or with the rope he's maybe tried to kill himself.
With a trial for murder looming, police now need to establish if Bill was killed, or had he got into difficulty while out and died an accidental death. In Gosmore, Hertfordshire, police have discovered the body of Bill Taylor on farmland 8 months after he disappeared without a trace. With Bill's estranged wife Angela and her lover, farm labourer Paul Cannon, due to stand trial for murder, suddenly the police need to establish if Bill had in fact died of an accidental death or harmed himself.
The forensic pathologist who conducted the post-mortem, Dr. Randall, was also somebody that I asked to come out to the scene. We were able to say that there was nothing there that suggested any form of suicide. Dr. Randall was also able to establish there was no illness, no disease that Bill was suffering from that would have led to a natural cause of death, or had something happened where Bill had got stuck in that water and then drowned. As part of the post-mortem, one of the tests is whether the diatoms that would be found in that water source had been ingested by Bill. And they hadn't. So what that test suggests to us is that Bill's body was placed into that water source when he was already dead.
The position of his body in the river was consistent with him being carried on a fireman's lift over someone's shoulder and dumped with his feet first into the mud, and then his body pushed over and flattened so his face was into the mud.
The one thing that did come back from the forensic report was a possible fracture to one of the delicate neck bones, which raised the possibility that Bill had been strangled and then dumped in the river.
With investigators confident Bill Taylor had been murdered and having a body to prove it, on 2nd September 2019, his estranged wife Angela Taylor and her lover, Bill's former lodger and labourer Paul Cannon, take to the dock at St Albans Crown Court, along with a third man, a man who police discover Paul had called 4 months before Bill's disappearance.
Paul Cannon contacts him and says, "Do you know anybody that could do this, and how much is it likely to cost?"
The court hears that among the WhatsApp messages between Angela and Paul, they discussed how to get rid of Bill.
They discuss the hiring of a hitman. They're talking about someone else needs to do it. And then Angela says, "You phone that bloke, can't keep going on like this." After that phone call, Cannon says, "I'm good, darling, just spoke to the man. And it's going to be about 20. I'll go halves with you."
All three defendants deny conspiracy to murder, instead blaming Bill's son Richard.
We know that Bill and Richard had a strained relationship. They hadn't been talking. They tried to paint a picture of Richard having the most to gain from Bill's death.
Because they didn't like Richard Taylor, it was quite easy to point to Richard and the feud that had existed in the family for some time, and almost suggest that he had a reason to get rid of his father.
It was horrendous to be accused of murdering my own father, hearing the disgusting things they said by WhatsApp messages. To hear what they wanted to do to my father, to my family, myself, still gives me sleepless nights. I felt that I was on trial, even though I hadn't done anything wrong. They tried to say I'd murdered my father for a £40,000 life insurance policy.
As the trial unfolds, jurors hear more details about the messages shared between Angela and Paul in the months leading up to Bill's disappearance.
They would stay up late until 11:30, midnight, talking about how they wanted to hurt Bill, how they wanted to hurt Richard, and that side of the family. Cannon says, "I'll kill for you, darling." I get so scared of losing you. I'll never find anyone like you, and I'll never want anyone as much as you again.
It became apparent they had planned and imagined what they called Plan B.
What was it you were worried about police finding out?
Is it Plan B? Is it a sort of secret message between the two of you about what you're going to do to Bill?
Which was to kill Bill Taylor.
In their defence, they said that the WhatsApp messages were just part of a fantasy world that had no basis in reality, and that Paul said that that's what would get Angela going, and that's why he did it, because it heightened their sex.
The couple stick to their defence. But the court hears of another discovery which the prosecution believes proves Bill was attacked and killed.
When we recovered Bill's body, he wasn't wearing that bracelet, and we'd been told that he wore that without fail. He never took that bracelet off. And so we undertook a further search and went back to the yard of Harkness Hall. And lo and behold, not too far from where his grandson had found that single link, we found further parts of Bill's missing bracelet, showing that bracelet had been broken, had been subject to some force at that location.
That tied in with Bill being lured out of his house, attacked on his land, the bracelet breaking, and then taken either dead or dying to be dumped in a spot where they knew very few people would go, except of course this fisherman 8 months later.
The prosecution claimed Bill was strangled to death outside his home. His body dumped in the river, having been taken there by Paul Cannon in the jeep he later sold to Bulgaria.
These two people had formed a joint intent to kill Bill Taylor, whatever it cost, and their motive was clearly set out in the phone messages. Paul Cannon had set out that day with that intention in mind, and although Angela wasn't present, she was well aware of what was happening and she was party to it. And that's indicative of the fact that his body was hidden actually on her land.
Despite the evidence put before the court, Angela, Paul and the third defendant continue to deny their involvement.
During the trial, I would say Angela was just nothing, just cold, no expression whatsoever, no emotion in any way, shape or form.
She didn't accept that she'd been involved in any sense in the planning, that she had been influenced by Paul Cannon. She'd been attracted to him, that she was in a relationship with him, and it was almost a titillating sexual fantasy that they both indulged in, but that it wasn't actually going to happen in real life.
Paul Cannon, the one and only time I saw him express any emotion during the trial was when he was asked a question about Bill potentially wanting to reconcile his marriage with Angela. And his response was emotional, but also angry. And he said, yeah, the man's deluded. The man's deluded.
2 months after the start of the trial, the jury returns its verdict. Paul Cannon and Angela Taylor are found guilty of murder and arson.
When they were found guilty of it, I just thought, well, why? Why would you get rid of someone, especially our dad?
The judge acknowledged that, well, she probably wasn't involved in the killing itself. She was the driving force behind it. She came to be seen as quite a master manipulator, getting these men who were so obsessed with her. I mean, Bill Taylor loved her to the very end, wanted her back after everything she did to him, and Paul Cannon was besotted with her. He was clearly prepared to kill for her.
The third defendant was cleared, but Angela and Paul are sentenced to life in prison.
And both have to serve a minimum of 22 years.
The killing itself, I think, boiled down to she'd been married for around 20 years to Bill. He was 17 years her senior. She was finished with him. She had a new lover and she just hated the sight of her husband and wanted to be rid of him, and saw an opportunity to manipulate her new lover into carrying it out.
With the case now behind them, Bill's family and friends can try to pick up the pieces of their lives.
It's been heartbreaking to go through what I've been through. It really has. I never thought I'd go through anything like this in my entire life ever. It's just impossible. It's just like something you just see on TV and think, that never happened to you, that never happened in reality. It's just impossible. Why would it happen? But the true fact is, well, actually it can. And, you know, it's tough. It's very tough.
I went with the family to the funeral. I was in the funeral car. Sorry. I went into the church. It really didn't move me because there's so many people were there. In the aisles, there were 3 deep. So many people were there. Bill.
Losing Dad has been the most horrendous situation I've ever had to deal with. I don't believe I'll ever get over it. I'm desperately trying to continue the farm in the way he raised me, with his environmental ethos and animal care. We try every day to uphold his legacy and his farming way of life. I would like my father to be remembered as a good man and a great farmer, not a murder victim.